Hello and welcome to the first edition of NFL Matchup. I'm your host, Earl Hill, and you can catch this show on Earl Knows It All, as well as Cover 2 with B Woo and Earl Knows It All. I host both of those shows, co-host one of them with my brother, B Woo Benjamin. I want to just continue to give you guys content that keeps you informed, lets you know, hey, what's going on in the NFL, and we preview on this particular show each game on tap for Sunday and Monday in that week in the NFL. Today, of course, we're giving you week 2 previews of those games. And we start off with a recap of what happened on Thursday night between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. If you watch my content, you know I'm a huge Eagles fan, man. I've been one for such a long time. I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl this year. Now, I will say, through the first 2 weeks of the season, they haven't been as dominant as I thought they'd look, but they did come out with a victory, 34-27, kind of headlined by 4 fumbles lost by the Minnesota Vikings, and that led to the Eagles being victorious in that game. Kirk Cousins did have a pretty stellar game stats-wise, but you never felt like the Vikings had a chance to win. Cousins finished with 364 yards and 4 TDs. He also went 31 for 44. On the other hand, Jalen Hurts didn't have a spectacular game, but he did well enough, managed the game well. It was 18 for 23 in that game with 193 yards, 1 TD and 1 pick. And he also rushed for 2 TDs as well with 35 yards rushing. The big star of the game, however, was DeAndre Swift. He had 28 carries, 175 yards, and a touchdown. And I think this was the first time since 2017, I want to say, or maybe it was 2011, that the Philadelphia Eagles have had a guy rush for 175 yards or more. So congratulations to the Eagles for moving to 2-0. They've completed their week, and the Vikings are now 0-2. I picked the Vikings to win the NFC North. I'm feeling like that was a bad pick. I thought maybe because of all the close games they won last year, they'd have a chance to continue on that journey. And I didn't believe in them as far as making any noise in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens. It's still early in the season. And of course, we now have 17 games instead of 16. So maybe they can right the ship. They are in a division that seems like it could be winnable, but Detroit could be serious. We'll see what happens with them. We'll get into what we think about their matchup this week, but we'll get right into our first matchup. We have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Cincinnati to take on the 0-1 Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Ravens, of course, were victorious last week in their first game against the Houston Texans. They played a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud, so a little bit of an easier task for them. Now they get Joe Burrow coming off what's arguably his worst game of his career. Only threw for 82 yards. Jamar Chase had 5 catches for 39 yards. T. Higgins had 8 targets, but 0 catches. Just an overall horrible display offensively from the Bengals. And still thinking that maybe Joe Burrow still hasn't had the chemistry or time to get his timing down. He's only played 1 week. He missed all of training camp essentially with a calf injury. Only a couple days early into the training camp was when he was diagnosed with that injury and ended up being out for the rest of the time. Now, this matchup is interesting, of course, also because it's a division matchup, so that makes it a lot more important. And it puts 2 of the top paid quarterbacks. These 2 guys both got huge contract extensions during the offseason, this past week for Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow became the highest paid player in NFL history. Prior to that, some of the other quarterbacks I've already talked about, Jalen Hurts and then Lamar Jackson also held those crowns for a couple weeks or months, you say. So if you're scoring at home, though, I have the Baltimore Ravens being victorious in that game over the Bengals. I think the Bengals will fall to 0-2, and they'll have to pull themselves out of a hole. And the Ravens, who are my AFC North champion pick, division winner pick, and I also have them winning the AFC as well. So I think maybe we start to see them click. Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham will kind of continue to grow with our guy, Lamar Jackson. Our next game, we travel to Detroit, Ford Field. The 1-0 Detroit Lions, they've had a lot of time off, some extended time now after winning that NFL kickoff Thursday game last week against the defending champs, Kansas City Chiefs. And now they take on the Seahawks. The Seahawks were one of the biggest disappointments, in my opinion, in that first week, man. I believe in Geno Smith. I keep saying he didn't write back when they wrote him off. But now, you know what? I bet with my heart or chose with my heart picking the Seahawks in that division because I just couldn't stomach saying that San Francisco will win the division. It is a long season, however, so anything can happen. But I do see the Detroit Lions actually being successful in this particular game. I think the Lions will move to 2-0, and the Seahawks going on the road, coming into Ford Field. I have them losing that game against Jared Goff and Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions have a lot of talent. Their defense looked pretty good going up against Kansas City, and I think they'll continue to show that against Geno Smith and move to 2-0. Moving right along, our third game on the docket is between two rookie quarterbacks. Their second career starts, two guys who were picked number 2 and number 4 in this draft, and also we get the number 3 pick in the draft as well, and Will Anderson, who's with the Houston Texans also. In this game, I think that because you have these two rookie quarterbacks, it's going to probably be a lot of mistakes that happen, man. But the quarterback that I have the most faith in is actually Anthony Richardson. Now, Anthony Richardson did, of course, suffer injury at the end of the opening game, but it wasn't something that was too serious. I think he just took a weird shot and came out in the last couple plays of the game. Even if he's not able to go full tilt in this game, I still like Gardner Minshew coming in if they need him to beat the Texans. I just think the Colts are a better football team. I think the Texans may be one of the worst teams in the league. And just kind of based on their performance, I think they're going to have a little bit of a rough go of it. So I chose the Indianapolis Colts in that game to defeat the Houston Texans. Again, that's one of those 1 o'clock games. Another game that we'll see at 1 p.m. as well down in Tampa. The Chicago Bears will travel to Tampa to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this was a surprise team. I did pick them to cover last week, Tampa Bay, but wasn't sure they were going to be able to beat Minnesota. They did upset Minnesota 20-17 on the road, and now they go home. Baker Mayfield has some weapons there. He still has Mike Evans, one of the better receivers in the league. They still got some guys who can run the football. They still have a pretty sturdy defense as well, led by Levante David. And although I'm saying this a lot, I guess after week 1, I picked the Bears to be a wild card team in the NFC North. I'm rethinking, like I said, my picks in the NFC North. Justin Fields looked like he struggled a lot. I don't know that DJ Moore is going to be enough as far as weapons. And I think if we're going to be brutally honest, is it time to have that real conversation about Justin Fields, man? I haven't given up hope on him. I think he still has a ton of talent, but he's going to have to show some progress as a passer. I think that has to start this game. However, I think Tampa Bay's defense is going to be hounding him the entire time, and I don't foresee him getting up off the mat just yet. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that game over the Bears. Our next game will go to the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. They opened the season 0-1, losing at home by 1 point to the Detroit Lions, as we said earlier. And Jacksonville, they got a new connection with Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne, if I butchered that name, looked very good in the game against the Colts as well. Now, that game was kind of back and forth. So the Jaguars, although they won by 10 points, it was a little bit closer than the score indicated. They got a big interception that allowed them to kind of push their way out in that game. I think the Chiefs will right the ship. Travis Kelce, I think, may still be questionable in this game or game time decision, but definitely if Kelce is back in this football game, you get the number 1 target for Pat Mahomes, and hopefully Kadarius Toney has gotten all the drops out, and they can kind of run the ball maybe a little bit as well and have some more success. But I think Patrick Mahomes is going to gut this out. I hear, some of the people in the media saying that this is a revenge game based on the injury that Patrick Mahomes suffered last year in Jacksonville. Jacksonville has an easy division, man, and this is I don't want to say must-win game for a team like Kansas City, who's been very good, but they probably want to make sure and put some emphasis on attempting to win this football game. Now, it's almost like they didn't have a bye week. Of course, they played on Thursday, so they got some extra time. Andy Reid has always been good when he has extra time to prepare for a team, so I think he'll do that in this game, and I think they right the ship. So I have the Kansas City Chiefs being victorious in that game over the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to take a brief break right now before we get into the rest of our games, and make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think so far about the matchups that we went over. Who do you have winning those games? Get engaged. Talk about what's going on here. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to NFL Matchup. I'm your host, Earl Hill, and we will continue to get into Sunday and Monday's matchups, man. The next game that we have on our docket are the Green Bay Packers traveling down to my hometown, Atlanta, to take on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is one of the matchups that are between two teams that are 1-0, one of the few that we get that have two teams that are coming in undefeated. In this particular game, what I'm looking for, Desmond Ridder was very efficient last week, but wasn't necessarily a difference maker in the game against Carolina. Now, the Falcons were able to go against the first-time starting quarterback, number one overall pick, Bryce Young. I think they'll have their hands probably filled a little bit more full with Jordan Love. Jordan Love isn't a guy with a lot of experience, but he does have some experience, and he looked very good against the Chicago Bears. Now, the Packers, I think this game is fun because the Packers have always beat up on Chicago. So can we, garner anything from what we saw in that game? Do we think that this is what the Packers will actually be? Or was that just, hey, they beat up on Chicago? That's just a matchup that they're good for. And can the Falcons get after Jordan Love, put some pressure on him, maybe force some turnovers and see what he's really made of? I'll tell you what I think. And my friends who are Falcons fans, I hate to say this, but I have Jordan Love and the Packers being victorious in this game. My reason for that is I just think Jordan Love is more ready as a starting quarterback than Desmond Ridder is right now. And I think the Falcons, who did a great job of running the football last week, will I think they'll still be able to run the ball, but I think they're going to be needing to make some plays in the passing game. And I don't know that I trust Desmond Ridder just yet to do that. I think he still has some growing pains to go through. That's why I'll take the Green Bay Packers in this game. Our next game, this guy struggled on Monday night, Josh Allen, as the Raiders will be coming into Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. Raiders come in 1-0. They got Jimmy G, Garoppolo, who had a pretty good game against Denver. Josh McDaniels gets the season opening victory over the Broncos, a rivalry game. I'm sure Al Davis was smiling down from heaven watching that. And now they go all the way East Coast from Vegas to take on the Buffalo Bills. Typically, when it's a 1 o'clock start and the West Coast team is traveling east to take on the East Coast team, it usually doesn't fare well for them. But in this particular instance, I think that it is going to be the case as well. Again, although I think Josh Allen was definitely a turnover machine in that Monday night game, if Josh Allen is who a lot of people think he is, and I think he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league, he is a gunslinger. I think he takes care of the ball in his game, redeems himself, and I think they handle the Raiders. Now, it's an 8-point spread the last time I looked at this. This is one of the games I picked on my pick six. You can catch that on Earl Knows It All on this feed as well. If you watch that, I did pick the Raiders to cover. So I think this game will be closer than what the experts or the people in Vegas think, but the Bills will be victorious in this game. Our next game, another 1 p.m. game. The Los Angeles Chargers will travel east as well to take on the Tennessee Titans. Two teams that are on one. And two teams, this is the game I probably had the most trouble picking in this week's slate of games. The Los Angeles Chargers, I want to call them the San Diego Chargers because it even dates back to those days, are just a team that is very difficult to trust. They're like the perpetual 8-8 or 9-8, 8-9 team now. They show you so many highs. They got Justin Herbert, who's a great young quarterback. I used Justin Herbert in fantasy previously and have felt pretty good about him. However, they also have the propensity to lose games that they should not lose or find ways to lose. See them being up by over 20 points in the playoff game last year in Jacksonville and blowing that game. It's just what they do. So Tennessee also has Ryan Tannehill, who is just the quarterback that leaves a lot to be desired, not necessarily a guy that plays inspired football. Now, they do have King Henry, who I'm a huge fan of, but I don't know that they'll be able to just run the football. They had a tough defensive struggle against the Saints on opening week. However, in this particular game, I think this is one of the times that I'll put my faith in the Chargers and say they'll come out victorious. You guys, again, on that one, kind of go at your own discretion, man. I'm not sure which one of those teams will win. Like I said, I was very uncomfortable with picking that game, but I'll take the Chargers in that game. Our next game, we got the San Francisco 49ers going to LA to take on their nemesis division rival, the Los Angeles Rams. This is our 4 o'clock slate now that we get into, and I'll be 100% honest with you. I hate to say this, but San Fran looked really, really good last week. They beat up on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think the Steelers are as bad as they look. I think San Fran may just be as good as they look. Now, if you've been following, you know I'm a guy that is not a huge fan of Kyle Shanahan, as I call him affectionately, the boy genius. I just think he's a little too big for his britches sometimes, man. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Now, this doesn't seem to hurt him in the regular season. He seems to, make good hay in the regular season. So this is a regular season game. We're in week 2. They beat up on the Rams. They have more talent than pretty much everybody in the NFL. Maybe the Eagles are the only team who can kind of match them for talent, and the Cowboys as well. I think all those teams are super talented. But I just think this is probably going to get ugly for the Rams. This was a 7-point spread when I looked at it previously. I don't know if that line has moved at the time of this viewing, but I think they'll cover easily, actually. I think the Rams are probably going to get their doors blown off. I think Matthew Stafford's going to be running for his life, and I'm going to be sick. Probably not even going to watch this game because I don't like to see good things happen to Kyle Shanahan. So I will choose the 49ers in this game, but it is with much dismay, as I'm not a huge fan of anybody over there with that operation because they're connected to Kyle Shanahan. So do what you will with that. Our next game, another 4 o'clock game. Giants are traveling to Arizona in the desert to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals have been picked to be one of the worst teams in the league. The Giants had the worst loss of the season last week with a 40-0 beatdown on Sunday Night Football. It was pretty ugly, man. Now, it was horrible conditions in that game, so maybe you give a little bit of a reprieve to Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and Brian Daboll and all those guys. But if they lose this game, if the Giants lose this game, it is going to be a very rough, ugly season for them. I don't think they'll start to have that rough, ugly season just yet. I think they handle their business against the Cardinals. Picking the Giants in this game to win it, I think they will take care of business. Some of these games are just kind of not worth talking about that much, and that's one of them. I think the Giants should just handle their business in this game. So if you're going with that one, take the Giants. Our next game, Cowboys going into, at home as the New York Jets. 1 week removed now from the Aaron Rodgers news being out for the season. They're going to go with Zach Wilson. They caught lightning in a bottle, and Josh Allen gift wrapped the game to them essentially on Monday night. I don't think they'll be as lucky, although they are playing another guy that, does have a lot of, propensity to turn the football over too. I got a little bit more faith in Dak Prescott, though, than I do in Josh Allen as far as turning the ball over. I think the Cowboys will get after Zach Wilson. They have one of the nastiest defenses. My pick for defensive player of the year is Michael Parsons. I think he will continue to show and wreak havoc like he did last week against the Giants. And I think they will blow doors on the New York Jets at this point. The Jets are in trouble in that game, and I think they're come down from that high of winning that game last week starts on Sunday. Another game that we have, the Broncos will welcome in the Washington Commanders. I think the Commanders are probably one of the worst teams in the league as well. Now, we saw them battle and beat in a game that was very close to the Arizona Cardinals last week. I don't trust the quarterback. I hate that Eric Bieniemy finds himself in this situation. This is the job that he could get as far as moving over from Kansas City there, because I think it's going to get real ugly before it gets pretty for the Washington Commanders. Now, I know some of the fans that are Commanders are excited about having new ownership. One time, my guy Magic Johnson and everybody over there with that ownership group, but I think they still have some work to do. Now, I also saw that Chase Young will be making his return as well in this game. So big ups to Chase Young coming back after a year off with some injury. But to all my friends who are Russell Wilson fans and Denver Broncos fans, this is your time to bask in the glory. I think the Broncos will handle their business. I think Russ has a big day. I think him and Sean Payton are going to be on the same page. They're saying that Russ will, have a short leash. I don't think this is the time that you'll see the leash removed. I think Russ stars in this game, and we start to remember what Russ was when he first came into the league and how he performed with the Seattle Seahawks when they were winning a championship and getting to those multiple Super Bowls. I think you see that kind of performance from Russ, and I think the Broncos will take care of their business. Our next game is one near and dear to my heart as well. We travel to New England, Foxborough. This is our Sunday night game. The New England Patriots will host Tua Tagovailoa and the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, the Miami Dolphins, right? I think the Dolphins will win this game, and I'm excited to see how Tua and the Cheetah continue to perform. If Tua is healthy, I think the Dolphins have to get their respect. I think they are going to be a dynamic offense. Mike McDonald has been proven to be pretty good coach, man. He's a little eccentric, but I like the way he's kind of moving. I like what Tua has going on. Waddle and Hill are two dynamic receivers. Tyreek Hill, he's a difference maker, man. You don't hear his name as far as people saying he's the best receiver in the league, but you may have to start considering that, man, because, I know Justin Jefferson's great and Devontae Adams and those guys all give you different things, but Tyreek Hill has thrown his name into the hat. He's showing that it wasn't just Mahomes. He can get the job done as well. He's making Tua look good as well. So I have the Dolphins taking that game as well. And then for some reason, I don't know why, I haven't heard anybody explain this to me, but we'll have two games on Monday night. So there's a game that kicks off at 7:15 Eastern time. That is the Saints and the Panthers. For some reason, my NFC South rivals, two teams that I don't like, will be going against each other on Monday night. Maybe the league wanted everyone to see Bryce Young. I'm not sure, man, but the Panthers are hosting the Saints in this game. And after watching Bryce Young, I think he's going to have some growing pains, man. The Saints defense is very, very tough. They got after Ryan Tannehill. You got Marshawn Lattimore, some great secondary play there. And Bryce Young in that game against the Falcons was locked in on receivers and telegraphing where he was going with football. And Jesse Bates ended up picking him off twice. Marshawn Lattimore may have a field day. If the Carolina Panthers don't do anything, they need to make sure they inform their young rookie quarterback, hey, don't throw the ball over to that side of the field, wherever that guy is, because he's a ball hawk and he will go get it. So I have the Saints. Oh, man, I can't even get it out. Excuse me. Have the Saints winning this game over the Panthers. Oh, my God, I got to go wash my mouth out after I said that. And our other Monday night game, we got the Steelers. We're hosting at home against the Cleveland Browns. Now, the funny thing about this is when I previously looked at this line, the Steelers are actually underdogs against the Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh. Terry Bradshaw and who else, man? Ben Roethlisberger, Bubby Brister, whoever you want to say, they're all rolling over right now saying, why in the world would the Cleveland Browns be favored on a Monday night game at that against the Pittsburgh Steelers? And that's what I'm saying. Although the Browns did win their game, they have Deshaun Watson. I think they are going to be a tough team in that AFC North. And I think the Steelers did look pretty bad last week. Kenny Pickett, he looked good in the preseason, looked horrible against a tough San Francisco team. It is still the Browns versus Steelers, man. So I will be taking the Steelers in this game to cover and outright as well. I think they'll handle their business because it's Pittsburgh versus Cleveland, man. This is what they do. They're a punching bag for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They will continue to be, and I think they handle their business in this game. Again, those are our slate of games that we have going in week 2. As always, like I said, you guys comment below. Tell me what you think. Engage. Let me know if you think your team will be victorious. If I disrespected your team, please let me know. I disrespect all the teams. It's just my thoughts, though, man. It's, there's no hard feelings. I just, call it like I see it, as they say, man. And as you can see over here, I am a know-it-all. So, hey, like I said, thank you guys for watching NFL Matchup. We'll be doing this every week. You can check it out to see who I have picking winning these games each week. As always, I want you to like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with a friend. Like I said, share the wealth of knowledge, man. We are having a great time giving you all this football content. I also, on my show, Earl Knows It All, bless you with basketball content and sports, pop culture, all kinds of stuff on there as well. And Cover 2 with B-Woo and Earl Knows It All is also specifically an NFL show where we give you the rundown of everything that's going on. We'll recap all these games on Monday for you as well with myself and B Woo. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, you guys make sure you continue to watch, like, and subscribe. Turn on the notifications. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you get all of your podcasts. All of that beautiful stuff. You make sure you do it. You guys have a wonderful day. And as always, may the source be with you.